Yeah, no, it is interesting. And watching that game last night, I was reminded that in doing the study for the Chiefs as you get ready to play the Chargers, doing those Charger games, I looked at him like, you can't blitz Patrick Mahomes. Like, it doesn't work. He sees it, and he's got too many options. They don't keep guys in. They get guys out, and he knows where all the answers are. So just don't do it. You've got to be – the formula is there. You've got to rush for
Mm-hmm.
You've got to keep the ball in front of you. You've got to rally and tackle, play great red zone defense. And I thought the Ravens last night was kind of a commitment to, look, this is what we do. We're going to
Mm-hmm.
be exotic. We're going to throw all these blitzes at you. And it's like, it doesn't work. He eats those blitzes up, and he ate them up last night. It was stealing for him when they sent pressure. And he welcomes it. He's daring you to do it. Come on, bring some more guys. Leave yourself naked in the back end and see what happens.
Yeah, no, that's the thing. And I think you really hit on something. Obviously, you see it because the Chargers have played the Chiefs better than anybody else. And what the Chargers have done, and what I believe the Chargers do, is, look, man, you can have all that you want from 20 to 20. You can have all those little nickel and dime. But when it gets to the 20 and the field becomes a 30-yard field, this is when we tighten up and the windows shrink. And we're going to force you to take the check down and see if you're disciplined enough to continue to take the check downs. And if we can get threes, we can force you to take threes while we get sevens, we're going to win. And I think that is the game. Hey, you can have all that you want from 20 to 20. We're going to focus on keeping the ball in front and really bogging down and dominating you with the umbrella coverage in the red zone and make Pat Mahomes throw into tight windows in the red zone. He has been phenomenal, but that is the best course of action to take against a quarterback that, look, I know everyone is ready to hand Russell Wilson the MVP. Hold off, man. Number 15 has a lot to say about that.
And the thing that I give him the most credit for is that he found, again, I talk about great quarterbacks find answers. You present them with problems, the great ones provide answers. And when you do want to rush for and play coverage, one of the things, he gets frustrated a little bit early on, and then this little switch goes off in his mind, goes, oh yeah, I got these 2 legs. I can go those a little bit. And you see big third down conversions with his legs. I've seen it a bunch. Saw it a bunch against Chargers, saw it last night once. Where he took off and took those free yards with his legs. So he's still gonna, again, he's gonna get first downs. You can't be obsessed with first downs. Give up first downs all day long. You just can't give up touchdowns. You got to limit that. And if you're keeping that team, if you can keep that team under 28 points, it's on your offense to go out there and get the job done. But to me, that's the goal with the Chiefs when you play them 7.25. If you can keep them to 7.25, that gets you to 28, and you need your offense to go out there and score one more than 28 to win a game. Last night, the Ravens couldn't do that.
No, they couldn't do it. And here's the thing about like the Chiefs, because I still believe the Chiefs are very vulnerable against the run. The problem is you have to be able to stay close enough with your defense to allow you to kind of pound on them with the running game. I mean, we saw that. Now, it didn't work out for the Tennessee Titans and other teams, but Tennessee Titans in the playoffs last year, being able to run the football and kind of muscle and slow the game down and do some of those things.
But they couldn't get stops. That was the problem. They couldn't get stops on the other side.
You can't get stops, and eventually, man, you give it back to them, and they go. And I'm gonna say this, and I know the comparison has been made, but really, when you look at the Chiefs, they are very similar to Steph Curry and the Golden State Warriors, with Patrick Mahomes playing the role of Steph Curry. The energy from that team comes from Pat Mahomes making a big play. It is very similar to when Steph Curry would hit a big 3-point shot, and if he hits them in succession, away they go. And so for the Chiefs, man, they live off the big play. So the way that you take that away, man, take the 3 away, make them drive to the cup, make them run the ball, make Pat Mahomes run it, make Andy Reid be okay giving the ball off to Clyde Edwards-Helaire and Pat Mahomes scrambling. So if we talk about a rush 4, drop 7, rush 3, drop 8, I think you have to live in that world because you can't out big play the Kansas City Chiefs. You have to make them nickel and dime. You just have to hope that it's a day that Pat Mahomes is off, and he may give you 1 or 2 because he gets frustrated trying to force the ball into coverage.
Yep. And one of the other things I love about that Chiefs offense is sometimes you look at, you've got receiver routes, tight end routes, running back routes. Not with the Chiefs. The whole world is open to all of them. When you've got, I mean, think about that. Like,
yeah,
linebacker preparing for a game, and you're like, okay, I've got to worry about the swing, the flat, and the angle route, the Texas route. Like, I got 3 routes I got to work on. Maybe they'll run one wheel every 4 weeks, right? With the Chiefs, I got to worry about him running slants, goes, double moves, corners. I mean, you have to defend so much more. And
so much.
It just opens everything up.
It does. And what's great about them, and I was listening to the New England Patriots. Bill Belichick had his press conference today, and he was talking about the Chiefs, and he was like, they have core concepts. They have 5 that they like to get out. You always refer to like 5 out in the route. And he said the thing about it is not about them necessarily playing matchups or, they feed Kelsey or they feed Hill. He's like, the concepts of what they change up the concepts. They change up the people in the concepts, but it's the same routes. But one week it could be Tyreek Hill lined up at wide receiver 3, running the deep over. The next time it could be Travis Kelsey lined up at number 3 out of a regular trips look with Tyreek Hill on the backside. They run the same plays over and over. They just change who is aligned in different spots. And it boggles your mind, because if I'm playing man, now I'm in an unfamiliar situation because I'm a linebacker playing Travis Kelsey all the way out wide. If I'm in zone, now I have all of these open voids, and I got Tyreek Hill and Sammy Watkins and Mecole Hardman running free in these zones. I go man to man, they go to their shallow cross game, and these guys are flying across the field like road runners, and you just can't keep up. It is really the perfect video game offense. And DJ, you've seen it. The best team to slow them down has been the Chargers, being able to keep them in front. But then some of that, I wonder, like, this was a big game on a big stage, a Monday night game. Yep. I think their antennas were up to kind of let everybody know, like, yeah, we're still the champs.
Yeah, no, they did. And we flip it over and we go to Baltimore. Nabil put the stat on here where the Lamar's over the largest deficit he's ever overcome was 8. But I don't know that that's fair, because they're not ever down. I mean, outside of the Chiefs, they blow the doors off just about everybody else they play since Lamar Jackson's been there. So I don't read as much into that. But I will say the difference in this game is if you turn up the temperature and heat up Patrick Mahomes, that's a death wish. When you heat up the temperature on Lamar Jackson, I've seen Lamar have some success at times, but I've also seen teams get to him. And I think Greasy might have said it in the broadcast last night, but it was evident when pressure's on Mahomes, his eyes never drop. Mm-hmm. When Lamar gets under pressure, he not only does he look to escape and to run, but his head just drops, his eyes drop, and he loses vision. That to me was one of the main differences in that game last night. Is he did not take advantage of some of the pressure looks that he saw, where Patrick Mahomes took advantage of every single one.
I think it's a huge issue. And I think it's a huge issue with Lamar. And I think these two guys have to be mentioned in the same breath, but we have to do the conversation differently. Greg Roman and Lamar Jackson are tied at the hip because it's play caller and playmaker. And so they have to work together to make sure that the offense runs. We're going to focus on the playmaker first and the play caller after that. So with Lamar Jackson, one of the things that we saw going all the way back to Louisville is he is a guy that does his best work when it comes to throwing inside the numbers. He is a guy that is better throwing things that kind of cross his face inside the numbers, working on in-breaking routes, slants, digs, seams, post. Those are his best throws. Those are the 4 throws that if we did the heat map on what Lamar Jackson does really well, it are all those in-breaking things that he's not great at. He's not great pushing the ball to the boundary outside the numbers. So your deep comebacks, your deep outs, things that are thrown along the boundary.
He had an underthrown goal last night.
Yeah.
Been picked.
Yeah, those are not the thing. And so what good teams do, as you put more stuff on tape, they begin to defend you to take away those things. So, hey, let's jam the middle of the field. So if we're playing man coverage, let's drop a lurk defender right in the middle to take away all those things and to cloud those lanes. Or if we're playing zone, let's play more of a 3-deep zone to take everything inside away and force you to make those reads that push the ball towards the boundaries. There's a bunch of different ways that you can do it. The thing that the Kansas City Chiefs also do is they come at you, and I would give Spags a ton of credit because
they went terrible like 4 plays in a row last night.
Yeah, he's the kind of play caller that is very confusing to play against, because he'll throw all kinds of cover zero hitters, zone blitz pressures, man blitz pressures, true traditional zone, and then they'll do some bracket coverage. That's a lot for a young quarterback to process. And because they know, and DJ, it'd be like if you and I are playing together. If I know that on offense that you're going to give me 30 points, well, now I can be like, hey, man, we gave up 1, but I know my offense will get it back. That frees you as a defensive play caller to really just go after it, because the head coach is like, hey, if we give up one, that's fine, but let's be crazy aggressive going after the Baltimore Ravens. And they were, because they know their offense can score 30 points on anybody. That changes your mentality when you're playing defense with the lead, also knowing that I got 30 points in the bank.
I just had this image in my mind. Do you remember? Did you go to like Chuck E. Cheese when you were a kid?
Yeah.
You know where they had the little games in there? You remember Whack-A-Mole?
Yes.
The little mole pap, 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 pap.
Yep.
That to me is Patrick Mahomes versus the blitz. So Patrick Mahomes versus the blitz, you don't know where it's coming from. It pops up, boom, boom, boom. He would have been awesome in Whack-A-Mole. Like you could be coming off the boundary, you could be coming from depth. You said overload blitz, just whack, 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 whack. He'd be the best Whack-A-Mole player of all time.
Yeah, because that is it. Because he has all the answers, and the defense that the Ravens play is a bit like that. Because for those who didn't understand what they were talking about on the broadcast, they talked about pressure and then simulated pressure. Simulated pressure is a four-man rush, 7 guys dropping. But the reason it's called simulated is because it looks like it may be a blitz, meaning they may have 3 defenders down or multiple guys standing up, and they're all hovering around the ball. And when it is the pre-snap part of it, it looks like there could be 5 or 6 guys coming. Post-snap, only 4 guys come. And sometimes it may be a safety. They drop out a defensive lineman. And so it looks like a zone blitz, but really it's just a regular traditional zone. Well, the thing about that, like it's great in theory, but if your quarterback has a handle on what you're doing, he finds the open windows. And what we're seeing from Pat Mahomes is, you talked about Whack-A-Mole. He was like, oh, okay, Deshaun Elliott, you're coming? Cool, I'm going to go here.
Yep.
He, for whatever reason, somehow he's been able to really figure that out. And I think what a lot of us missed in the evaluation when he was coming out, we just didn't know what that IQ was in terms of the awareness and those things, because
smart, man.
Yeah, because it was, 4 wides, it was 3x1, 2x2, and empty. They didn't do traditional stuff. And so you're like, well, how much does he know? How much is he going to be able to process? Now, when he came in and visited and we were able to talk to him, and we got a sense of his recall and his awareness and his ability to pull back these plays and vividly describe what he saw, that's when the light was like, ooh. Because that's stuff that you can't glean off tape. Like, the conversation was eye-opening, and I think we're seeing that play out. Back to Lamar, though, I think some of the concern with Lamar, even when he was coming out of Louisville, was he's such a talented athlete and playmaker that he's never necessarily had to be tied to the pocket and maybe mastered those skills to being a surgeon from the pocket. And to this credit, the Baltimore Ravens have never consistently been in a position where they've had to put him in that. They're always dictating the terms. So I saw the stat where we talked about he's 0-8, 0-9 after halftime, but they also have been up at halftime in 22 of his 24 starts, 25 starts. So
I think that number, by the way, the 0-9 number, which got circulated a bunch,
includes
Joe Flacco. So it's not.
Yeah,
that's just
Baltimore.
Since
that's not him.
Flacco started a bunch of those games. Yeah.
Yeah. So like, he's always played from a hit, and so that's the thing. And how do you work on playing from behind when you're never behind? I think they have to always play from ahead. And this gets me to Greg Roman. I think this shows up. It showed up last year, and I think it continues to show up in some of these bigger games. I think what happens in these big games, because it happened in Tennessee, they tend to deviate away from who they are.
I saw it in those Chargers in the playoffs 2 years ago.
They deviate
every time they drop back, Buck. Every time Lamar is not involved in some type of mesh action, you're up in you like exhale. You go, oh man, thank goodness. Okay, they're going to drop back and throw it.
Yeah, they get away from the style that really makes them a feared team. They are feared because of Lamar Jackson being a dynamic runner, the way they incorporate 2 and 3 tight ends into the mix, the read option game, and their ability to throw play action passes deep down the field. That is what really makes the Ravens a feared unit. The more that they go what I call spread tax with 3 and 4 wide receivers on the field, the more I believe they play into the hands of the opposition. I believe they need to continue to play, as you said, like bully ball with big plays. They just have to stick to it, because the game, when they were running the ball, even in the third quarter, the game came back to them. Yeah. They were having opportunity. Now, they needed a defensive stop, but the game came back to them. They have to just continue to be mindful of who they are and stick to their identity.
Yeah, I mean, I think they could beat a bunch of teams in this league throwing the ball 10 times. I really do. I think they'd win a ton of games just because their run game is so difficult, and then because of the volume of running you would do, you'd have 10 completions for freaking 250 yards because all those completions would be Hollywood Brown on top of coverage with huge plays. But I do want to acknowledge, look, we talked about Lamar's struggles outside the numbers coming out of Louisville. He's gotten better. He's gotten better in those areas. He got better last year. I think he was better earlier this year. There's something he's really worked on. But in that game last night, you saw some of those issues kind of rear their head a little bit. Just not being able to accurately drive the ball outside the numbers showed up.
Yeah, it shows up, and it's one of those things they have to continue to address. But I don't think there's a cause for panic or concern in Baltimore. I mean, I know they made this out to be a big game, and I know they really wanted to show off on the national stage. It didn't work out. Styles make fights, and this isn't the matchup is just bad. Like years ago, the Pittsburgh Steelers didn't necessarily match up well with the New England Patriots for whatever reason. Their styles of play just didn't align, and so it makes it challenging. I think they have to continue to work on a plan that will eventually enable them to beat the Kansas City Chiefs. But you're right, DJ. They're going to be one of those teams that could and should be one of the last ones standing in the tournament. They have to resolve their way or the approach that they take with the Kansas City Chiefs, because right now 0-3 against the Chiefs in the last couple of years, they have to find a way to kind of close the gap on them. Because I tweeted out, this looks like a fight between a heavyweight and a middleweight. Like the Kansas City Chiefs, just whenever they want to, they know they can score, they know they can attack, and they go into attack mode. I don't know if Baltimore has the same confidence.